people are rolling in. We've got enough people here to make a great event, and I am excited to have everyone with us today. So I'm going to start. Let's do this. Let's do this poetry slam. First off, welcome. And this is our very first Mad in America's Mad Poetry Slam. So we are very excited to have you all. And I think we have an amazing lineup today for you. And I think you'll enjoy all these poets that we have. And, like I said before, open mic informational will come. So we'll have a half an hour at the end of the event for open mic. And we'll have that information for you in this intro, just in 1 second. So this event, as you know, is hosted by Mad in America, and our mission is to serve as a catalyst for rethinking psychiatric care in the United States and abroad. We believe that the current drug-based paradigm of care has failed our society, and that scientific research, as well as the lived experience of those who have been diagnosed with psychiatric disorders, call for profound change. So at this slam, we're trying to raise up critical voices, raise up the voices of people with lived experience through poetry, and around critical thinking around the mainstream narrative of mental health diagnosis and psychiatric treatment. So we're really happy to have you all. And so for the open mic is, there will be a time later that we will say, okay, now is the time to put your name in the chat. That'll be after the third poet reads. We'll take a pause. People can get up and stretch or put their name in the chat. All those things. We'll take a breather for that. And then, that's when, just look out for that announcement. And that'll be after John reads. So, and something really important I want to say too is a thank you to Jo Watson. She was the founder of A Disorder for Everyone, and she does her own poetry events that were amazing. She even published a book of poets from that event, and she helped me and Anne with this. And speaking of Anne, I want to introduce Anne Bracken, our co-host, and then just myself. I'm Corinne Gerbert. I'm the arts editor at Mad in America. I'm a writer and a poet and an artist, and just always in love with how the arts can make change in the world and exploring that. So, Anne, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thank you everybody for being here with us for our first Mad in America Poetry Slam. It's really wonderful to have you all here. My name is Anne Bracken. I live in Columbia, Maryland, and I got very interested in poetry because it was the only door that led me to healing when I was experiencing a profound depression. And from that experience, I studied poetry therapy and became a poet. And I'm very much a believer in the power of poetry to affect people's minds and hearts. And my work centers on social justice issues of paradigm change with emotional wellness, education reform, and prison abolition.
Thank you so much, Anne. All right, so we are ready. And before we start with our first poets, Rene Simon, I want to just mention that I've asked our poets to give the audience a little bit of a heads up around any trigger warnings, around any potentially triggering content, and if anybody has some questions about what that might be, we can talk about that. But general, violence of any kind, those kind of things, and just to give us a little trigger up, heads up. That's the word I was trying to think of. Just so we can all take care of ourselves while we're at this event. I mean, I really want to make sure everyone has the space to mute if they need to, or turn the sound off on their computer if they need to, or leave the room. Anything that, you know best about how to take care of yourself and that kind of thing. And I've asked our Peachtree poets to just kind of heads up on that kind of stuff. All right, so the first person we have reading is Rene Simon, and I am going to read Rene's bio really quick. And Rene Simon, she, her, is a queer Black disabled writer whose work has found homes in Pacific Review, The Co-op, Strange Horizons, Literary Mama, Calyx, Obsidian, and West Trestle Review. Her full-length collection, Not Just the Fire, was released in March 2023 from Cornerstone Press. She has lived experience with mental health challenges, addiction, and trauma, and now works as a certified peer specialist and substance use counselor, supporting others on the same journey. In her free time, she enjoys creating visual art, napping, coffee-flavored caffeine. She is currently living in Madison. I don't know what WI is in America. What is that?
That's
Wyoming.
Wisconsin.
What is it?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I'm so sorry. Wisconsin, with her spouse and 4-month-old daughter. So welcome, Rene. We're so glad to have you. And take it away.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So thank you to Karen and Anne. And it's nerve-wracking and also a privilege to be able to read first. And I just want to start out by saying I'm not really a slam poet. I'm a poet, but I don't often get a chance to read in these types of events. So I tried to pick a little more slammy work from my collections. But I am just thrilled to be able to participate because this organization means a lot to me. So I want to start by saying there are trigger warnings on my poems. This first poem does contain a brief mention of child abuse. So most of my trigger warnings are small cautions. They're pretty brief mentions, but I do think that it's important to mention. So move. My therapist softly suggests I move my body. She reminds me that it's keeping score and I am still on the losing side. I drag my body like Sisyphus's rock behind me, live only in my folds of gray matter. The mirror echoes a perfect carved oval, a face unattached to bone, blood, limbs. My therapist plays a wordless, swelling melody on her phone, adorns my fingers with clattering wooden zills, asks me to close my eyes, stay seated, listen. This melody blooms around me, vast with intimacy and fervor, moves into me, lodges in rusted joints, atrophied muscle. Something stirs in response. As a child, I loved to dance and spin, loved to sway and swing my arms in rhythmic loops, my whole being dizzy with joy. Until the time someone pointed, until someone laughed, until someone stole my body away and made it theirs, until it was no longer mine. Sitting on the velvet couch in my therapist's office, someone else's arms begin to swing gently. Someone else's fingers rise and fall, tapping the zills in syncopation. Someone else's chest swells with song. When the music ends, she tells me I was lovely. Lovely. Like something made of love, like something whole. Thank you. So the next poem is a little longer one, and you'll notice that my work doesn't specifically address systems of mental health or wellness or anything like that. That's because I'm really a very experiential poet. I just want you to feel how I feel. I believe in growth and learning and movement, and that's what I label recovery. So a lot of this is about my personal journey towards what I deem recovery. So this one is called Self-Portrait at 50, and it's after a poet, David Berman. And this also has a small trigger warning. 1. Not a very original title, stolen as it is, and you think you know what will follow. the maudlin wanderings of a midlife woman sitting on the couch at 4:30 a.m., awakened early the way my body insists these days. Somehow, I've managed not to open my wrists on dark days in my 20s, 30s, or even 40s after countless hours of ponder. Instead, I curl on my couch to watch the sky turn gold pink the way early morning skies sometimes do. As David knows, it is not just a sky, it is the sky, the one everyone conjures when they close both eyelids, scan encyclopedic mental images of beautiful sunrise, full of hibiscus and clementine oiling together in flattened pools like melted butter, becoming brighter, more languid, more transparent. I await an awe that never arrives. There is only so much one can write about the budding blooms of spring, the marvels of the universe, before even the sublime seems tedious. I've already mined the treasure trove of childhood trauma, handsy babysitters, the cold stoicism of my father, my grandparents' endless descending cobweb stairwell leading to the basement full of canning jars, resembling Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory. And yes, you must say laboratory, and everything else that awaited there. I am in search of something, but I won't know what it is until I see it. I only know it's there because it's lacking. 2, I got married in July at 49 years of age. A late bloomer since high school where I walked, read, skipped, bled early. Our honeymoon, we went a week tootling through the small towns of Door County along Lake Michigan, assuaged by the liquid lap of tides against the shoreline, and quaint shops with overpriced souvenirs made in China but marketed as handmade. But listen, this isn't a poem about honeymoons or souvenirs or even being a late bloomer, but maybe just to say change is possible. 3, in high school, I kept a backpack hidden in the back of my closet, filled with a few clothes, some cash, books, pictures, and my spare car keys. In the fridge, I always kept a package of hot dogs, and on the counter, apples. This was my runaway bag. I never used it, not really believing I could survive the streets on my own, afraid I'd be forced into a disreputable lifestyle for food and money, yet sure, I was too fat and homely for anyone to pay for me. Instead, I stayed home, slept fitfully in a queen waterbed, watched over by an unfortunate menagerie of porcelain dolls crowning the bookcase headboard. Their glassy, vacant-eyed watchfulness calmed me, my nighttime sentinels. 4, to be honest, my childhood recollections are just a patchwork of family stories, sepia photographs, mental snapshots, viewed from above as if from an insect's eye. My 20s and 30s were similarly lost in a mixture of psychopharmaceuticals, dissociated depression, and alcohol in heady combinations. This morning, as the sun rose into the sky, light turning from rose gold to a warm, buttery pineapple, my own daughter stumbles out of her bedroom and down the hall to plunk herself onto the sofa near me. She also has a backpack filled with textbooks, old notes, and candy wrappers. She mumbles a sleepy, "Good morning, Mama." She is right. Self-portrait at 50. Thank you. So I have 2 more shorter ones. The next one is probably the one with the biggest trigger warning, as it does contain specific mentions of suicide. And the title is chiaroscuro, which for those who aren't familiar with that term is an art term that references strong sense of light and dark in artwork or photography. So it's really a play on lightness and darkness. 4 days ago, I tried to take my own life. Take it somewhere else, somewhere new. Take it not here. To follow the late afternoon sun splashing through my second-story window, to see if there was light to follow, like in all the stories, or a train at the end of the tunnel. Light is impossible to see without darkness, but darkness is so easy to find. Darkness is the mud and rock bottom of Lake Michigan mixed with my daughter's remains. The black swirl of ink on my arm lettered in my lost son's name. When they found me, it was 2 hours later. I remember lying down. I remember darkness. Until I was alive again, I didn't see light. Thank you. Right, and my last piece is a little bit more of a vision of what I wish our healing systems in this country could look like. And it's called Canary. And there is a small trigger warning on this as well. I was 11 years old the first time my mother took me to see a therapist. We talked and talked, but she never heard anything but my words. Decades flown by, I yearned to return to my 11-year-old self, yearned to whisper back half the century to my mother's ear, guide her to clasp my hand and lead me to the wise women, shamans and elders of our native and African ancestors with their ancient ways. Shaking their heads and clucking their tongues, those sage old crones would have seated my budding body by their banked fires to warm my thick bones, heads bobbing in agreement. They would have coaxed me to drink the teas that loosen the tongues of all terrorized 11-year-old girls, releasing my trembling voice from the box of its bone cage, vocals swooping up my throat like a canary fleeing a toxic mind. Oh, how that bird girl song would have looped among the rafters, enthralling the shamans with tales of truth and sorrow. Oh, how its cloistered wings would have flapped and fluttered as it crooned a forlorn chorus. And when that canary trill quieted at last, its windpipe dry and scraped raw, how they would have plucked it up and cupped it tenderly in weathered palms, dripped warm salves of nectars and herbs down its aching throat and placed it back upon my chest, where I lay asleep, curled among the other children and hunting pups in a great circular pile around the fire. Those elder women would be watching over my slumbering bird girl form, nodding to themselves and each other, knowing that tomorrow I would sing again, and the next day, and the day after that, and at each singing, my feathered voice growing sweet and strong, they would grin their wide, toothless grins.
Wow. Thank you
Thank you so
so
much.
much, Renee. That was amazing. And please, I encourage you to look at all the comments that were flying by in the comment thing. So many people were touched and really enjoyed your reading. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I know, Anne, you want to introduce the next poet?
Yes. Thank you for starting us off, Renee. That was just a beautiful set. Very, very moving. Our next poet is Rebecca Donaldson. And Rebecca Donaldson is a confessional poet, a speech language pathologist, and a PhD student in positive developmental psychology. Her research interests include adverse childhood experiences, resilience, narrative identity, and personality development across the lifespan. If she's not writing love poems, she writes on topics pertaining to poverty, internal family systems, and the shamed souls diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Please welcome Rebecca Donaldson.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Before I get started, I just want to let you know that a lot of my poems talk about childhood trauma, the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, suicidal ideation, sexual abuse, And yeah, if there's anything, please feel free to step out if you need to. And my first poem is titled Mad Women. Mad women, sad women, neglected and not accepted. Our experiences of child abuse and suicidal ideation can't possibly be connected. We are said to be crazy, hysterical, and abnormal, and are later diagnosed in our car with BPD by a psychologist dressed in floral. We are the ones the world puts down and abuses. We are the ones the world gaslights and later calls liars full of excuses. We are the sexually abused and later told we are identity confused. We are the scapegoats, the misfits, the ones who cry too much. We are the borderlines or the witches who men justify are okay to touch. We are too loud, too quiet, too angry, too scared. We are women with histories of trauma, the patriarchy harm, but nobody cared. We are the ones labeled as being attention-seeking, the ones nobody listens to when we are speaking. We borderlines are your sisters, your mothers, and your lovers. We are the ones psychiatry calls a bunch of cutters. We are beaten, bruised, neglected, and thrown away. We are women who sought help only to be referred out as a castaway. They call us personality disordered and sick, without acknowledging that many of us have been raped by someone's dick. We are women who are told to grow up and regulate our emotions. We are the ones who are asked at a young age to meet men upstairs with lotion. We are the poetic ones and the ones who wear our hearts on our sleeve, while our therapists whisper to each other, "She's crazy, can't you see?" We are the ones who can't articulate our trauma story, because after age 8, we stop taking inventory of the name calling of the violation. We are later sent to DBT where we sign a contract at orientation. So we tell each other to look white, cisgendered, and upper class, and write each other to never say you're suicidal if in DBT and you want to pass. Don't shave your head, don't shed a tear, smile, look ladylike, and never show fear. Don't talk about your pain, don't say anything, because the end goal is for the DBT therapist to think that you are sane. Borderlines, they call us women who do not feel well, not strong, not survivors who have given love and kindness could excel. No, us women are nothing but witches, the ones behind closed doors therapists call manipulative bitches. We receive behaviorism treatment like DBT, not pathways for healing our trauma, but rather money-making BS with unaffordable fees. It's time to recognize us women for who we are, not personality disordered or sick, but rather women who survived and who have made it thus far. Stand in solidarity with all of us women who have been harmed. Knock on the doors of the Psychological Association and sound the alarm. This harm needs to stop right now, once and for all. There are thousands of us who are asking that you stand up and make a phone call. Call your Psychological Association, tell them enough of this shit and that you do not concord at the way we continue to treat these beautiful women seeking help who should be nothing but adored. My next one is called A Love Poem for the Girls with Borderline. This one I first performed with Joe Watson's at Joe Watson's event. And I just want to thank Joe for everything that she's done for me. I honestly wouldn't be here today if I hadn't met her and really got involved in the Drop the Disorder community. She's a beautiful person, so if you ever get a chance to talk to her, I highly recommend it. My next poem, I'm going to start, I already told you, it's a love poem for the girls with borderline. I use quotes because I don't believe in this diagnosis. If I do say borderline without quotes, it's just because I'm not putting my hands up, but just letting you guys know. I want to write a love poem for the girls who have been branded with borderline. I want to write a love poem for the girls who don't feel loved. I want to write a love poem for the girls who hurt so much that they call hospitals their home. I want to write a love poem for the girls who are told they are manipulative. I want to write a love poem for the girls who learn to spell worthless before their first name. I want to write a love poem for the girls with borderline who were never hugged. I want to write a love poem for the girls who are unable to scrub this 10-letter word from their forehead, no matter which scrub brush they use. I want to write a love poem for the girls who are terminated for telling their therapist they love them. I want to write a love poem for the girls who wear their hearts on both their sleeves. I want to write a love poem for the girls who think there is something wrong with them for loving this hard. I want to write a love poem, but what I want even more is to say that you don't have to wear this label. It is not an identity. It is not who you are. I want to write a love poem for the girls who, when they look in the bathroom mirror, only see a diagnostic code. I want to write a love poem for these girls because just maybe, instead of branding them with this label, what they need is someone to love them. Maybe I'm not a therapist. Maybe I'm just a poet. Maybe this is true. I may not have the DSM memorized, but I've saved words on a 2-sided cassette. I play side 1 for painful comments from therapists and side 2 for ones from my past. Maybe I'm not a therapist. Maybe this is true. I am a poet though, and if nobody else is willing to, I'll write the girls with borderline a love poem. I love you all. May one day the world recognize this diagnosis for what it really is, developmental trauma. I don't have a title for my next one, so I don't remember. Okay, we'll get going. I wish you had tried to understand what happened to me, but in the end you lacked empathy. I tried to convey to you where I come from and how it feels to cry for 29 years, wondering where is my mom. But you scared me and often left me shaking. You glared at me with disapproval as if I were faking. You yelled at me as I sat there crying silently that you couldn't read my mind, as if these tears are nonsense rather than a silent plea. You see, you labeled my distress with some made-up personality test. You read some 9 criteria that sounded just like hysteria from some book you called a DSM, and said I could no longer email you because I am one of them. You stopped smiling at me, but continued to make sure I paid your fee. For your service, you said, was evidence-based and no longer explored what I actually faced. You can heal, you continue to proclaim as you etched your scarlet letter into me to show me that we are not the same. F60.3, that is me, borderline personality disorder, AKA crazy young bee. Just ignore what she says, they say, because I can't truly be in pain. I must be borderline because you say I am not sane. Nobody normal cries this much, you write in my notes. Emotionally unstable, you think, as you see me digging into my skin under my coat. No discussion of adverse childhood experiences or where I come from. You just send me a book on BPD and think that I am dumb. I'm taking back my voice today, and as you say, I wish you two the best. I'd like to say my name is Rebecca again without being oppressed. Hello, world. My name is Rebecca, aka Rebecca. I'm not a pejorative label, and I'm no longer taking part in this fable. I will soon have my PhD in the psychology field and will fight the system with my lips unsealed. To the psychologists who harm me, soon you'll call me doctor too. I hope you read my book one day, as I'd love to read your review. I wish you could see what happened to me. These are things often not taught to a psychology student or MFT. My mother became a drug addict when I was 3, and my father only did things to me for a fee. My mother wasn't born this way. She used to sing and dance all day. Somewhere though, she fell into a hole. I think on that day, she might have lost her soul. I really wanted a mom and still do. Even better, if I could, I'd take 2. I want one of those that plays with me like Miss Honey, who dances, laughs, and thinks that I'm funny. I'd buy one if I could, a mother I'd call mommy. I'd live with her in New York City and eat pizza or pastrami. We would dance, play sports, and talk about my dreams. We'd be close and make the best mother-daughter pair of all the teams. Things weren't good when I was a kid. I don't really remember much of what I did. I was scared often of what Dad would do to us, that I'd hide in my room when he'd start to cuss. I learned not to ask him for much and to run when I heard his fist make a bang and such. I left one night at 21. That was the night I ran away and said that I am done. I don't know what it's like to be cherished by a mom or a dad. I don't know much at all, but it sounds quite rad. I wish mental health professionals knew what to do with adults like me, but I've never much felt like any of them could really see. They gave me some label called BPD, and instead they said that the problem is me. I don't understand this because all I do is cry. They look at me though like what I say is just a lie. I finally got a new therapist who says she believes me. She sits presently and never uses the term BPD. She smiles at me with warm brown eyes, and when I talk about what a therapist did to me, she sighs. She's a feminist just like me. I think it's why she can finally see. It's because of her that I'm unthawing and still here. And then I recently stopped walking around with so much sadness and fear. All I needed was someone to say what happened to me wasn't okay. Just by my therapist doing this, I've started to find my way. My last one is called Courage. Courage, you're worthless. Courage, good luck with that. Courage, you're a sissy. Courage, you're the biggest regret of my life. Courage, ha, you're a wimpy girl. Courage, grow up. Courage, badass. Courage, stop crying. Courage, you baby. Courage, girls are meant to be seen and not heard. Courage, you're going to study abroad and live with wetbacks? Ha, good luck with that. Courage, I'm not paying for anything. Courage, you owe me for all the sacrifices that I've made for you. Courage, you piece of shit. Courage, you selfish, narcissistic brat. Courage, good luck frolicking around the world while I'm digging ditches. Courage, I am king. Courage, I am God. Courage, I will be respected. Courage, hi. Courage, my name's Rebecca. Courage, I am a woman and proud to be so. Courage, I will go to school. Courage, I will speak. Courage, I'll find my own way. Courage, I'll make my own money. Courage, I'll keep dreaming. Courage, I will stand here proudly. Courage, soy Rebecca, hablo español. Courage, I'm speaking. Courage, Elsa Rebecca, to the bang. Courage, I said no. Courage, I said no. Courage, I stand. Courage, I'm saying enough. Courage, I will live. Courage, that little girl is mine now. Courage, we will dance. Courage, we will sing. Courage, she will be cherished for the rest of her life. Courage, she is free now, and so am I. That's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was extremely moving and powerful, and it took a lot of courage to actually write those poems and then to share them with all of us. So thank you for your gift.
Thank you, Anne.
There's some wonderful comments in the chat for you.
Thank you, everyone.
And Anne, you want to introduce John?
Sure. John Hoggett's interest in psychiatry started in the mid-90s when he befriended a handsome violin-playing man who was on 2.5 times the recommended dose of haloperidol, hallucinating wildly, shaking all over, with eyes rolling up in his head. Clearly, the drugs were not working and were causing great distress. This started John's investigations into and campaigning against the dangerous excesses of psychiatry. He has been involved in poetry and other arts for most of his adult life, mainly in his home of Reading in the UK. Thank you, John. Welcome.
Thank you. So about 15 years ago, I was at a conference in the Midlands, Leicester or Rugby, and being a bit hard of hearing, I sat at the front, and the person next to me was about to speak, and that was Robert Whitaker. And I said, are you a bit nervous? And he went, no, I've done it so often. And that's how I feel about doing poetry, except online, where you don't really get much feedback. So we'll see how this goes. So I'm used to, like, you know, slams where people heckle and performing on bins. Zoom, it's been. So this is called Father's Day, and trigger warning. It's got a reference to violence towards a child in the first line. I'll put my finger up, I'd say now, and then put it down again when it's over. So you can put your fingers over your ears or whatever. Father's Day. When my father was a child, my grandmother threw him across the kitchen saying, no child of mine comes second. He was a grammar school boy, and his best friend has come first, and in the end of year exam, and he'd come second. Every other year, it was the other way round. My grandfather ran the family business, Hoggett of Leicester, did the tailoring for the Duke of Devonshire, handcrafted suits. This is one of my father's, but it's made by Next. Suit for the Duke, his sons, the butler, footman, chauffeur, and all the other male staff. Hoggett's were bought out by Burton's in the 50s. Burton's merged with various companies until it was finally bought up by Arcadia, owned by the notorious tax-avoiding, scandal-ridden multimillionaire Philip Green. From artisan tailoring for the hoi polloi to UK-based mass marketing to made-to-measure to tax-avoiding multinational corporation. My father flew kites on the Peak District moors with me, made Christmas cakes for us all, played games with us and broke my mother's heart by having an affair. He brought his lover home on Christmas Day. I was 4, my sister was 8. He was very, very clever. His mother would not allow him to be otherwise. Was his Christmas Day treat callous stupidity or deliberate cruelty? Some psychologists see womanizing as an expression of deep anger. It's the falling rate of profit, the melting of everything that is solid into air. That's a quote from Marx. As good as, it's from the Communist Manifesto. It's the falling rate of profit, the melting of everything that's solid into air. That's the quote. As good as an explanation of any other of family pathology. Should psychologists read Marx as well as Freud and his Father's Day when we hold our fathers to account for the blessings and curses they bestow upon us? So I think there's a theme in the first 2 bits of writing, and that's something that I saw in a comment on under a Mad in America blog post, and that was the statement that the purpose of psychiatry, the function of psychiatry, that's the word they used, is to make sure no one thinks about why people are mad. And so this is called word salad, and it's got a word in it that most of you will not be familiar with, which is gyro. Joe might be. So a gyro was a green check that arrived at the post in a brown envelope, and it was from the government, and it was how unemployment and sickness benefits were paid. So you take it out once a fortnight, go down the post office, cash it, and pay the rent, pay the bills, buy your food. So now it's all done in electronic transfers. Word salad is a symptom some psychiatrists assign to some schizophrenics. It means a jumble of words that seemingly have no meaning, yet they may be spoken with great emotion, tears, rage, fear, or occasionally love. Yet if the jumble of words is attentively listened to, questioned in a firm but friendly manner, then a certain poetry may emerge, and often with further attentive listening, the poetry may subside to reveal the commonplace stanzas. Late gyros, noisy neighbours, uncaring landlords, unfaithful lovers, library books to be returned, shopping lists. The so-called schizophrenic moves on, while I, the attentive critic, wait for the next fascinating individual to pour forth their avant-garde tales. So, thank you very much. So, it's like, you know, silent, not like, whoa! It's like, I'll have to adapt. So this is called Insane.
For you, but here's one for you.
Thank you. Oh, audience interaction. Here we go. You can't throw things at me though. Insane dissociated observation. Oh dear, I'm 64, so this is old poems. Now we are 50, better than 40 most days. Men on sofas, young men in bars, look so gay, leaning in, smiling, close, ambivalent, double-edged, soft, sofa sounds, occasionally lounging. Tim calls, mobile phone, dog on a string, sleeps in parks, overbearing squats, get too much, cannabis psychosis, hastily diagnosed, overpaid locum, lost the plot, stop, lost the plot, stop, flirts, heavily, heavenly flirting, unmade plans, drifting, flirty boy seldom squirts, dissociated, drifting, wandering, dog on the string boy, I want him. I want him, he wants me, we sleep together, dog on the string boy, dissociated, lost the plot, stop, wandering, he's gone. So if we're in the same room, you could see me dramatically throw the paper, punctuating the end of the poem. So this is called Teasing Memories, and oh, I've got a book, but yeah, we're not there, so I can't push it. So thank you very much. Yeah, I've got my timer going. We're for like 10-ish minutes. So it has got a reference to self-harm, but also to friendship. Teasing memories, yeah, double glazing salesman. No one really likes them, do they? Except this woman I knew. She asked one in with her housemates, you know, just being friendly, and they had a bottle of wine or two, invited them in for dinner. Laughed, joked, had a fabulous time. One of the best evenings ever. Just her housemates, and a double glazing salesman. But then it was the 80s, and she was a community worker, and that's what they do. Throw parties, invite loads of people, get them to talk to one another, have a great time. Community workers in the 80s, and who have friends who, with cuts all up their arm, self-inflicted, self-harm, self-harming, always joking, always smiling, with scars on her arm. And her friend, the community worker, befriending her, propping her up, staunching the despair that never showed, just the scars on her arm. That's what it was like knowing community workers in the 80s. She was always there, close, friendly, always there, encouraging, friendly, a bright laugh. Said she was giving her friend a couple of years, like she was giving up herself for a couple of years for her friend, staunching the wounds, healing the scars. So they're always there, of course. A couple of years with the cuts, the scars, the self-harm, but that's what it was like, knowing community workers who were such good fun in the 80s. So, see what we've got. Thank you. So watch your applause go. Thank you.
We got about 3 more minutes, John. Yeah.
3 more minutes, right? Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 6, or we've got 3, 2, 4. I think I'll do the short one. The long one's a bit reflective. So we'll do this one, which is like not quite relevant, and we'll do the other one, and that'll be the 3 minutes. So this is called Impossible Dream. Every night I dream of the same thing, of picking up a man on the number 17 bus and taking him home, and both of us perfectly sober. Thank you very much. So this is called 2004 Symptoms and Reflections. So 2004, it's got references to talent competitions and pop stars of right about that period. So you might have to, some of us were alive then, some of us, well, you might think of contemporary talent shows on TV and contemporary pop stars. More people take Prozac than voted in Pop Idol. Many more people said to their doctor, I'm depressed, distressed, miserable and grey, then hit the phone, hit the text, jumped up and down and sighed. Maybe more people don't like themselves than get excited by Robbie. What value is there in comparing Will and Gareth and girls around to subclinical depression? Maybe we should talk more, proclaimed the Samaritans on their poster. Depression, girls around, text, Will Young, the inherent competitiveness of capitalism, the impossibility of providing enough effective counsellors, the absolute need to lie in most job interviews. Yes, dear interviewer, as soon as you asked, the biggest problem I would face if I got this job would be being so excited I would find it hard to sleep at night. The restructuring of society to prevent human beings hating themselves, the absolute essential need for an anarcho-socialist, communist, Ecotopian Revolution, Girls Aloud, Will Young, Gareth Gates to talk. Yes, indeed. But what about? Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much, John. That was really amazing. Thank you so much for reading all those.
I made that 6 seconds under 12 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, good job. Nice, nice. Yeah, I recognize slams are like a little bit of a different format, but I guess I used the word because just the way to use, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, so maybe we'll have a real slam with hecklers and all some other time.
I think we'll have to face to face, but no, this is good. This is very engaging. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. All right, so we're going to take just a tiny break, and what we're going to do is, all right, so here it is, your chance if you want to put your hat in for the open mic. We're going to pause for a couple of minutes while those people do that, and we're looking also we're looking out for people also who did submit to this event. So if we see your names, you know, and you already submitted, we will be looking out for you. So put your name in the chat if you'd like to do it, but please put your, yeah, well, that's good. Yep, okay. And Anne will be looking out for that, and we'll just pause for a minute, and then Joe's gonna read, and we're really excited to hear Joe. So we'll give this a couple of minutes for everyone who needs to put their name in, to have their name in.
I just wanted to add that we'll have time for about 5 or 6 open mic poets.
Yep. Thank you, Anne. Thanks so much. Yep. And everybody can really, I have other things in the introduction when the slam starts.
Okay.
We're going to talk about more guidelines around reading and everything.
Because I'm getting a lot of names, and I just want you all to know we'd love to have you, but we don't.
Yeah, right.
Don't have the time, so I'm just going to select some names.
Yep, and it'll be limited to, like Anne said, 5.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. All right, so just give it a minute, and when it slows down, it looks like it did slow down actually. Yeah, okay, so if everybody got their name in, yep, Brittany, yours went in. Yep. All right. So what I will do is we're gonna intro Joe, if that's all right with everyone. Yeah, if your name, you know, appeared in chat, then just assume that Anne has got it, and she's going to be making her choices on there. Okay, so Joe Watson is the founder of the Facebook group Drop the Disorder and the co-founder of A Disorder for Everyone that hosts events that challenge the culture of diagnosis and disorder and the medicalization of emotional distress. She is the editor of the PCCS books, Drop the Disorder, Challenging the Culture of Psychiatric Diagnosis, and We Are the Change Makers, poems supporting Drop the Disorder. So, Joe, thank you so much for reading for us today, and go for it.
Oh, Karen and Anne, thank you so much for inviting me. It's great that you're doing this. Really good to see. I've missed poetry events, so yeah, I'm really pleased to be here. And total honour to be on the same lineup as those 3 amazing poets. And just a little bit of a disclaimer is I'm not actually a proper poet. I'm just a person who rhymes words when I'm feeling angry, mainly.
Hey, that works.
So, it's cathartic really for me more than anything. In terms of trigger warnings, my poems generally all about the violence of the mental health system. I've got 3 poems. The second one is like more specifically about ECT. So that by the very nature of the subject matter could be triggering for people. So the first one I wrote for an International Women's Day event a long time ago now, I think probably about 2016. That's why the emphasis of the poem is on the experience of women, because it was written for that event. And And then when me and Lucy Johnson started doing the AD4E events, the poem kind of became part of those events, and they were events that went around the UK challenging the culture of diagnosis and, you know, the system generally. And then when COVID happened, we went all online, and that included the poetry events that you mentioned earlier. So that was great. And then, yeah, we made a book out of it, which was brilliant. And I recommend it because it's full of allies, words and thoughts and expressions and what they want to say about the biomedical model, and about, more crucially, about like how they want to see change. So
I'm going to throw that link in the chat so people can get it. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, as I said, the first poem is one that we used to say, I used to read at the events. And a couple of things about it, like John said about, you know, references to things that some people might not understand. So two things. One, there's reference to UK-based mental health campaigns, one called Time to Change, one called Rethink, and then also reference to UK-based comedians called Ruby Wax and Stephen Fry. So that might be just worth saying for people who don't know those campaigns or people. So it's a poem called I'm With Her. It's inspired by Eleanor Longden, who famously wrote a TED talk called and performed a TED talk called The Voices Inside My Head. That tells her story, Eleanor's story, of being diagnosed with schizophrenia, of being not heard, of being completely missed. In the TED talk, Eleanor says, the main question in psychiatry, in mental health, shouldn't be what's wrong with you, it should be what happened to you. And I'm with her, like not on the fence, because surely mental health is linked to experience, so often a direct consequence of trauma, of oppression. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting the impression that we've been tricked, like really, good and proper, into thinking, into believing that these problems tell us about who we are, rather than what it was that actually carved the sky. You see, we're fooled into thinking that it's about biology, physiology, intrinsic to identity. They tell us that it's in our genes, instead of being in the scenes of what happens to us that play out on repeat sometimes. You know, the ones we don't mention too much. Our great-grandmothers, look, some of our great-grandmothers were incarcerated. They were locked away for years and years, left to decay, sometimes shackled in metal vices, while slices of their brains were cut out to exorcise the threat. And yes, this meant that sometimes they would forget the horrors, but it also meant that sometimes they would forget their names. And our grandmothers, I guess it won't come as a huge surprise that large numbers of our grandmothers were tranquilised, pretty much sedated, and this equated to a kind of half-life, often for their entire life. And when this didn't quite sort them out, make them sane, they may well have been strapped down whilst electricity was shot into their brain. And our mothers, many of our mothers were flooded with old school antidepressants and mass unnecessary womb extractions and reactions to instant hormones that for some meant a detour around that midlife rite of passage that may have brought them home. And as for our sisters, as for ourselves, well, we are labelled and medicated, disorders allocated, often accumulated, because there's no shortage of diagnostic criteria to explain any deliria or otherwise. Honestly, you'd be surprised. There's a disorder for everyone. What, you haven't been diagnosed yet? You just haven't been in the wrong place, saying the wrong things to the wrong people at the wrong time. Arbitrary luck, nothing else, because I promise there is a disorder for everyone. They're in the book, the DSM-5, it's the place from where they all derive, all squashed in, hundreds of them, all planned, because supply and demand doesn't work too well without the demand bit. So our disorder has to fit. We need the pills to cure it, cure us, be our defence, chemical compounds of modern science that conveniently turn off or tone down our emotions, our feelings, whilst pharmaceuticals profit so much, they're wheeling and dealing with governments dictating policy. Is it not an atrocity that drug companies have any say in the big decisions of the day. And I know, I get it, I'm ranting now, but here's the thing, subtly, hidden away, underneath the shiny surface campaigns of the day of mental health awareness raising that are so good at glazing over the point and over the pain, we find more of the same. Hidden away is more of the same, and excuse the pun, but this is sending me insane. Because now even the good ones are having a try, you know, the likes of Ruby Wax and good old Stephen Fry, sadly still perpetuating all the toxic lies and generally doing a great job of using celebrity status to pathologise. So we all get to believing that it is about us. They say mental health is like physical health, and alongside that, invariably, a belief that it's part of identity, so part of me, the heart of me, that isn't going away, it's here to stay, needs to be managed, needs to be contained, needs to be chemically explained. So we really do need to rethink, and it's definitely time to change, because otherwise precisely nothing is being rearranged. We'll see a continuation of the same old shit, convenient, disempowering medical model rhetoric, because I see confusion and delusion and collusion with social control. And where the hell in all of this is oppression's role or trauma's role? It's not getting a look in, let alone being explored. So all of our stories join the millions of others that have been conveniently ignored, because trauma can't be relevant. It's too much of a threat to the general scheme of things. Instead, we should forget about what's happened and put it down to genes, to chemical chaos, to predispositions, to the biological machine. You know, Eleanor Longden, she was never, ever asked about what had happened to her or any of her past. They just said she had an illness, a kind of broken brain, and that this explained the voices and the corresponding pain. So diagnosed with schizophrenia and written off as a hopeless case. And yeah, you may be thinking this is an absolute disgrace, but it's really no exception. It's happening every day. And it's time to change the script now and find another way. Because in her amazing TED Talk, Eleanor says, the main question shouldn't be what's wrong with you. It should be what happened to you. All right, the next one is called A Million Conversations About ECT, electroconvulsive therapy. Now, I wrote this because I was just so frustrated at the time with people had been doing a debate, can't remember where now. But as a result of the debate, it was all over Twitter, loads of conversations, loads of debates, loads of arguments, and it was very infuriating and frustrating. This is what came out. It works, they say. What's not to like? It helps a broken brain, succeeds where other stuff has failed. It makes people less insane. Oh, also, it is a last resort, like it's not the first idea. By this point, they've tried everything, a long list of panaceas, all psychiatry's offerings, mostly every pill, but the brain is proper broken, see, a severe type of ill. Okay, there's no real evidence, but don't be put off by this. The proof is that they're still alive, and this we can't dismiss. So let me get this right, I say. I want to understand. You think that shocking someone's brain should definitely not be banned? And despite the lack of evidence, you're happy that it's a choice, even though what most have heard is a mainstream biased voice telling them of brain disease and conditions without cure. Positioning as medical like this will reassure? Because if I was told that theory, it would evoke a deep despair. I'd feel trapped inside my brokenness without a hope or prayer, to the point where I might too consider ECT. Desperation will try most things, I'm sure you would agree. Because many in this torment have never had a real choice to understand stuff differently and to hear an inner voice that just might tell them stories of core hurts and pains and give them some sense and meaning to potentially explain their often daily struggle to function, to exist, compounded by the hopelessness of illness narratives. Now they say it's not like that. Bad stuff is not the thing. This is flawed biology. It's chemicals, it's genes. I had to leave it there then and pick up another day. There was no sign of movement. There was nothing I could say. But whilst this is accepted and presented as the facts in schools, in films, on Twitter, it conveniently distracts from all the things that happen, from all the social ills, and from any real acknowledgement that it's unheard pain that kills. Right, my last one is do something, which is just a bit of a rant about, and the point is if we all do something, things have inevitably got to move in the right direction. She's empowering people to be part of the effort to change this bullshit, really. Don't be sorry, do something. What? It doesn't matter. Take your place in the fight back, because we've got lies to shatter. Find your thing and do it. Pen ranted rhymes or songs, meme great quotes for Instagram, make noise about what's wrong, wave a banner, share a post, offer to explain, plug a book, send a clip, organise, campaign, write a blog, make a sign, retweet rage-filled tweets, join a group, start a group, fill the fucking streets, wear a badge, start debates, talk and rant and shout, share allies' posts all day long, giving them more clout to get the message out there and smash down all the lies that dishonour all the stories and just pathologise by talking of what's broken and of illness or condition. Fuck this game of soldiers, file a petition, get the world to sign it, let's call the whole thing out. The empire is falling, not one bit of doubt. Change is around the corner, their cover has been blown. We know the score, we're fighting back, and we are not alone. There's a world of allies out there just waiting to be found. And when we all do something, there'll be a turnaround. Thanks, guys.
Yes, yes, Joe, thank you so much. That's so beautiful, wonderful poetry. Thank you so much for reading for us.
That was inspiring, really inspiring. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me again. It's brilliant. Brilliant to see this happening.
I was just reading that there's a big campaign against ECT in the UK.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled to see that. I wish that we had more of that here. It's something that's so benign and helpful. It's such a lie. So
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
work.
Again.
Good work.
Yeah.
So I have the
Oh,
wonderful.
wait, hold on 1 second, Anne. I
Okay.
just want to do the
Sorry.
No, no, it's okay. We're excited
I'm
to.
so enthused.
Yes. And also just to thank the future poets. You know, thank you all for reading. Rene, Rebecca, John, and Joe. Thank you so much for being here today and reading your wonderful poetry. I want to just say that before we unmute and the first reader and Anne will mention who that is, please remember you can read one poem or up to 5 minutes. And we'll cut you off at 5 minutes. And please state your name so we know who you are, and maybe any website information if we can follow up, or like book information or anywhere, you know, we can get more information about you. And then there are some rules. We want to keep this a welcoming and safe place. So please, you know, we have participation guidelines that are the same as our Mad in America forums, which is just basically, it boils down to no personal attacks, no threats or misrepresentations of yourself, although that's a little, poetry is, you know, can be a little interpretive there. Illegal material, no illegal material or profanity, although no, profanity is okay because we're fine with profanity in poetry. And definitely no hate speech, no disparaging assertions about a person's character, discrimination based on a person's identity or occupation, and no calls for violence against any people. So those are generally our Mad in America guidelines, which I kind of have moved into this group. If you have any questions about it, I know it's a little, we're still working out the kinks about, you know, how to communicate the rules there, but just make sure that you're definitely no hate speech, no calls for violence against any people. Okay. What else? Did I have anything else before we start? And also the same as the featured poets, please offer a heads up around any kind of potentially triggering content so that we can all do the same with the open mic people. sort of be able to take care of ourselves if we need to mute. Okay, go for it, Anne, and I'll find them and I'll mute them. Who's going first?
My face disappeared for a minute.
Yeah.
We were inundated with people who would like to read, and I just want to say up front, I'm sorry that we can't call on everybody, but hopefully we're going to be doing more of these events and you'll have a chance at another time. The first person I would like to invite to read is Scott Rosenthal.
Scott
Are you
Rosenthal.
still here?
Okay, well, looks like he's still here. Or please let us know your pronouns if you have a preference. Do you want to unmute, Scott? Oh, there, I think.
Yeah.
There you are. Hey, Scott.
Hello.
You're looking gorgeous.
Well, I haven't been too healthy lately, so
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear.
uh
Well, we're looking forward to hearing your poetry. So
this I'll jump right in. From the spring of 82. The malingerer goes to the movies. My symptomatology is decidedly physiological, and it was very bizarre. And all I got for it was psychiatric, oppression. I mean, I mean oppression, not as a cliche, because they never really did anything for me. Oh, and the drugs. This is called The Malingerer Goes to the Movies, for Colin Kempner and for Judith Wright. You're sitting there. It's getting harder to breathe. It seems like a little man, like a gnome, has climbed up the back of your seat and dropped a net into your head, over your brain. You turn to the woman sitting next to you, and she isn't there. You turn back to the screen, and it seems unreal, like a bad film. Are you in a theater at all? Are you in a room filled with water? Are there any people here? Show's over. You're out in the parking lot, wondering how to get home. My work tends to be short, so I think I have just enough time for this,
Yeah.
this next one. This is way old. This is from,
go for it. Yeah, I think you do have time for one more. Yep. Thank you for that.
thank you. If the world had spun less fast, perhaps not quite as dizzily, I might have gotten on. I may have ridden the gay carousel, painted horse going round and up and down, plaster personality showing inanimate, when all the music and the steed had stopped. I'm sorry if I'm strident and not calm, but I'm having some horrible health problems lately. I'm living in an unhealthy environment, and I can't. Let me say this: that basically the mental health system has a hegemony over most of the housing.
Mhm.
If you're homeless in this country, you have to be a consumer to get the housing.
Yeah. Well, you
That's
read
the discussion
beautifully.
itself.
Like your work is really beautiful, and thank you so much.
Thank
And we're
Thank you,
gonna-
Scott. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing your
and
work.
good luck. Yeah. Good luck.
The next person that I'd like to invite to read would be Glenda Velasco or Glinda Velasco. Is Glinda still here?
Can you spell that?
G-L-Y-N-D.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
There you are. Okay, great. Is it Belinda or Galinda? I'm
Oh, let me hold on. Let me
with a G or a
can you
B?
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's Glenda.
Glenda. Okay, great.
Glenda.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to hearing your poetry. And you can go for it whenever you're ready.
All right. I'm going to be a little shaky here.
No worries.
Okay, trigger warning. This is about war and gun violence and let's see, colonial mentality and U.S. exceptionalism. So if you're having problems with any of those topics, I would suggest that you just tap out, not hearing this poem. Okay. It's kind of like Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, but usually Filipino American History Month is in October. But anyway, this is called America Loves the Philippines, question mark. Red, white stripes, blue square, field of 5-point white stars symbolize patriotism, nationalism, or democracy, or US exceptionalism that replicates UK's Occidentalism, BKA, better known as imperialism and colonialism. US touts about freedom, but whom? US stole lands, US stole people, US decided the chosen people. Male, wealthy, owned property, rigged to hold a monopoly of power within its brotherhood of patriarchal politics. Liberation was never for my ancestors, colonized for centuries by Spain. No, USA did not liberate the Filipinos. USA bought the Philippines and territories from Spain. USA wanted land for corporations, never liberating the Filipinos. Instead, USA colonized the Philippines without saying the word US colony to the American people. Politicians try to keep it under wrap about the US occupation with the Philippines. Manifest destiny in the Pacific. The lie was benevolent assimilation to Christianize and educate. White man burden, white saviorism created a genocide of indigenous spirit through indoctrination. US school teachers armed with US-centric education textbooks. Hiya, shame. Colonial mentality is being shamed for having indigenous or traditional Filipino traits or qualities and wanting Western or American traits once been exposed to it. McKinley assassination led to the Filipino independence when Theodore Roosevelt became president. Note that USA never apologized for falsely entering a war with Spain, which mistakenly led the Philippines to think that they were going to be liberated. No, USA to grant the Philippines independence. The USA, there was no apology from the USA for being at war with the Filipinos that wanted liberation. They basically called USA pardoned the Filipinos for insurrection and gave Philippines the US system of government way of doing things. USA's complicity with the graft and corruption of the Filipino dynasties of cronyism and nepotism made USA and Philippines political bedfellows. The USA Americans Code for WYTE, Filipinos should be grateful to us Americans, be grateful to participate in American nightmare, be grateful the cultural amnesia people erased under the tutelage or the barrel of a new improved Colt invented to stop indigenous people fighting amok, bang, 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 later used for wars and state included for profit. A docile Filipino is a good Filipino. After all, resistance is futile when the dollar diplomacy is in place. Make a nation addicted to a fraction of American dollar for survival. An anti-capitalist animist Filipinx in the USA is a walking ghost in its own spiritual awakening. A mad scapegoat turned revolutionary, wandering in pre and post Trump-India. Second revision, 6/2/2021. 2022.
Thank
Written
you
by
so
Glenda
much.
T. Velasco.
That was an amazing reading, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you for adding your voice to today.
All
The
right.
next person I'd like to invite is Edwin Espinel.
Edwin?
Hi there.
There you go. Okay, you got it. Let's see. Okay, go for it. Thank
Um,
you, Edwin.
all right.
Thanks for reading.
Hi there. I'm reading some of my original poetry.
Great.
I'm not sure what type of trigger warnings I should put on this, though.
If it's just anything like any violence or sexual abuse is usually good to say, or anything like that.
Okay. All right. This is a poem I made a bit ago. It's called Am I Icarus? The question that comes to my mind is what was in the head of the one who fell, the one who trusted so much but listened so little. We hear of his legend and how he did not heed a warning. But how can one hear when the air rushes so fast that everything else is deafened? Was it hubris or was it love of life? To caress the sky and be burned by the sun. A lesson is learned through blood and tears, but was immortalized for years and years. So is the story of Icarus a cautionary tale? Or is it one that tells us that we should let our wings sail?
Get a little bit more time if you want to read another one.
Sure, I usually have a lot of like darker poetry, but I'll read the good ones.
Yeah.
This one's called Dog Ear, as in when you dog ear a book. Have you ever seen a book that has been well loved, has been shown the world and never left behind? Well worn is how many would view it, but it is so much more accurate to say it has been truly cherished. For a book with a broken spine means it has been admired, a treasure that in its very design falls apart. But we do not fault the book for its failures, for it is not the fault of it to be so enticing. The marks and stains and damage tell a story, one of a life well lived. Truly, to live its end in the hands of those that care for it most. Dog-eared to ribbons. To live through the care that was given and fall apart to those who wish to know its history. Truly a life well loved.
Okay, I love that dog-eared to ribbons. That's going to be my new phrase. That's amazing. So
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you so much, Edwin.
Thank you. Very, very evocative imagery there. Next person I'd like to invite is Mickey Lee.
Hi.
Hey, Mickey.
So yeah,
Nice to meet you. Welcome. We're excited to hear your poetry.
I won't be a minute. Okay. I have a belief in God. I know not everyone shares that. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I have a belief in God. I know not everyone shares that. So I respect that. I'm also LGBT.
Okay.
So yeah, I respect that not everyone it's yeah. But anyway, so this is a poem. I don't think I need any trigger warnings. Just about my mental health. So this is called The One Who Set Me Free. I am like the wind that blows and the river that flows in rows like the beautiful red rose. My confidence is growing up from the earth like a flower, and at last I can feel my power. Poetry is my essence of being effervescent, my presence in the room as I ebb and flow like the moon, but it hasn't always been like this. No, 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 I used to feel so low, lost with nowhere to go, searching to and fro, hurting deep within, forcing myself to grin or smile, if only for a while. And while I was going through the motions, my emotions were going round and round, 1 minute high, then hitting the ground. I found that being me wasn't easy to be, and nobody knew what to do. walking on eggshells, breaking the yoke, making a joke that incidentally I couldn't get. I just wanted to forget what I'd done before, the trauma that I saw from living with PTSD, the chains that held me, diagnosed with BPD, schizoaffective disorder, OCD, and being a hoarder. There wasn't any order to my existence. None of it made sense. My emotions were immense. I hid my feelings under an invisibility cloak, like they were just a joke, just so people could see that I wasn't afraid to let the rain conceal my pain, trying to heal my brain, trying to hide what I knew wasn't right. Inside, lying, I cried through the night so you wouldn't see that I was afraid of the fears I had to face, the tears I had to taste. Too afraid of friendships invading my space, invitations I turned down because I didn't want to be around. But now I stand my ground and I'm not afraid to fail, even when life blows the gale. I'm learning to love and respect me, Mickey, because now I know who holds the key, the one who set me free. Jesus, Christ, Yahweh, Yeshua, the one who made a way, the one to whom I pray. He made the night and day. And he loves everybody, by the way, even if you're LGBT, because he set me free.
Wow, Mickey, thank you. That was so good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Such an amazing
Thank
delivery too.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I think
Thank you for choosing me as well. I really appreciate it. Thank
it
you.
was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I think we have time for one more.
Okay. Our last poet will be Ryan Becker, if he is here. Ryan? I
Yep,
see you.
I'm here. I was just trying to figure out how to unmute that for a second.
Okay,
Give me
great.
1 sec.
Great, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Okay. So I'm gonna read something from my poetry book, Euphoric Wonderland. I guess triggers suicidal ideation, some minor drug use. I don't know, stuff. I think that's about it. I like to talk on stuff that doesn't always have to do, with my withdrawal and my taper that I started in 2019. Just stuff that I, was feeling during the time. And I wrote this before I started my taper, so you can kind of hear the agitation that I had towards the so-called mental health system. So this is called Scream Without Sound, Cry Without Tears, Bleed Without Scars to Remember the Years. You crumble, you fall, you rock to a tune that left all too soon. A dance, a divine loving romance, a record or two. How can you live without a few? Vinyl turn euphoria, or is it dysphoria? Mixed and sick, it just doesn't fit. Now that riff turns quick as I alternate pick. Skip the intervals when you can jump from octave to octave, 12 and a half steps before this arrest. But how do you stop when all that you want is to be on top? Emotions jump out of your skin, not knowing where to begin. Now I remember as the clock went tick-tock, too many docks. I would rather be home, pencil in hand, within my own land. Can't fall asleep, mind still awake, heart beating at 10 times its rate. 4 walls and all as I scream and I claw from all that I saw. No way to get out, no way to escape. No window, no light, not a single delight. I sit and wander my mind somewhere amidst the light out there. Years of this when I should have been doing that. Money that was spent that should have been rent. You think of the past when they said you were weak and full of defeat until you're crippled when your mind's gone rippled. Do you wish to be like them and all they pretend? Life's a fame and all that's insane. Life's not right, so you try here, try this, try everything that ever could exist. Fly here, plane trip there. Will any of these places pay my fare? Just need a thought from all that I fought. Hospitals, deductibles, ECT, just let me fucking be. How can they help but they don't know how it felt? They tell me I'm this as I start to get pissed and storm away in dismay. So instead, find a way, any way to slowly rot and decay. I want to inspire, not decompose and expire. Head buried in books, looking for help is a hell of a lot better than hanging yourself. Chest compressed, anxiety to the test, need to pass through all of the rest. Now another day to think and repeat, but make it so much more than that shitty day before. Pills just making me want to sit still, yet Mary Jane stops all that is pain and life less lame. Get ripped, get lit, anything to calm my mind in a fit. clouds in the air, because life wasn't always sane, a lot more like Bane when you feel so insane falling from a plane. Because yeah, shit can get crazy at times, but why not find a record with killer ass rhymes and remember this upcoming line? Music's about finding a beat that only you can hear, a rhythm that only you can dance to. That song is your life, and you know best your verse, chorus, verse. The intro of where you began that launched you into the stratosphere. The chorus that brought you front and center with an outro so powerful the walls came down. And an ending where we don't say goodbye or goodnight. We say the show must go on. No beginning, no end. Just a journey that gets better and better as our records spin round and round and round and round. Yeah, that's that.
Nice. Thank
I
you
don't know
so much for that.
if I went over the time, I can stop there. Or
No,
I can
no,
do a
you
short one.
have,
Or
yes, you have 2 more minutes, yeah.
I wrote a piece that although I don't have DID or anything like that, it's more of a piece that I wrote when I felt like I was just so many people once to, you know, just like Jekyll and Hyde, just an experience I felt. So I wrote it based on superheroes that I like. So it's called Divided in Two. I feel as if there exists a beast to be unleashed, divided in two or maybe a few. Mr. Glass, what do I do when I've lost it entirely? Do I venture into the night appearing as Daredevil, all senses increased, all but one that becomes view enhanced with my brain in a trance? Perhaps I'm playing tricks on my mind as the Mad Hatter, or tripping out with the Scarecrow to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. I'm just way too fast, Flash, and I can't find the brakes to stay in the present. Oliver Queen, what do I do when all is destroyed? Do I wrap my past unanswered questions in a lead box as Lex Luthor once did? Should I riddle you a joke because making others laugh hides all that is mad? Professor Xavier attempting to read my mind, needing to discover all that is mine. Remember to use Cerebro to seek for those full of warmth. All the lost need help finding their way, even the ones where their mind has gone split and having a fit. Furthermore, Mr. Glass, you're not a mistake, maybe misunderstood. Nevertheless, good or evil, we must first recognize everything we are that which we never grasped. You may get knocked around, dragged down to the bottom of it all, left gasping for air, but you can never be broken. All that is super exists because of you. And,
Thank you. I think that's it. You went on the 5 minutes there. So
okay. Oh, sorry about that. I'm all set. All done.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. That
Thanks
was really
so
great.
much for sharing your work and all your energy. It really, your enthusiasm really comes through.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice to have you read. That was great. So, and a great thing to end on. We're heading up on 1:30, and this was so much fun, and I just am so honored to have heard your voices and to have had this event with the featured poets and you all in the audience and the open mic poets. So we are thinking about doing this more often. So please keep an ear out for the next events. We'll have the same process where people submit to be featured poets and are chosen there, and we'll have an open mic at the other event as well. So, Anne, you got any closing thoughts?
I think it was great to be with a whole bunch of poets who have found their voice and can share their voices. You know, part of what happens when you get tangled up with the so-called mental health system is that people don't want to hear you. People don't want to hear your story. And this afternoon gave us such a wonderful venue for people to share their stories. So thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. And there will be a recording available as well. And just thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And take care. Have a great day.